Hello and welcome to today's interview in the summit that is all about empowering a league of extraordinary mothers on how to lay a strong foundation for health and happiness in your teenage daughter. My name is Edwina Murphy-Droomer, and today I am interviewing the very gorgeous Kim Morrison. Kim has many wonderful accomplishments to her name, but to name just a few, she has set a world record as the youngest female to run 100 miles in less than 24 hours. The gorgeous Cliffy Young was her mentor throughout, and she still to this day lives by his ethos that success is 90% mental and 10% physical. Kim wholeheartedly believes that success comes from visualizing your dreams and just going for it, regardless of the feedback you receive or the challenges that you face. Off the back of this philosophy, she founded 28 Essentials, an organic skincare and aromatherapy company. She's also a 5 times best-selling author, facilitator, and lifestyle educator. Welcome, Kim, and thank you so much for being here today.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So, look, I think we're going to cover a lot in our conversation today, but one of the things that I like to talk about quite a lot is I have rituals in my day that I just love and I use for various reasons, whether it's my 1 cup of coffee that I lovingly brew and sit down after the children have all gone off to school, or whether it's in the evening when I'm cooking dinner and it's always at the same time and I follow a similar sort of process, and it seems to be a time when the kids know that I'm standing still for a minute and they can come, and that's often when we catch up and chat. But I'd love to hear about some of the powerful rituals that you use in your day.
Oh, thank you. Look, rituals to me are habits, but they just sound nicer when you say rituals. And all through my children's upbringing, I have tried to teach them, or not even teach them, I've just done them. And then I've realized that they've become a habit or a ritual for our family. Yes. So little things like, because I'm an aromatherapist, obviously there's lots of things I can do with essential oils. So putting on a diffuser every morning. I also light a vaporizer, or I can do things like do my body boost, which from the age of 19 I have never missed at 19. And that's just a 2-minute little ritual I do every morning. When the kids were little, they used to come into the bathroom and they'd do it with me. But it's basically just a teaspoon of carrier oil, sweet almond or jojoba or macadamia, or a body lotion, 3 drops of my chosen essential oils or blend, a little bit of magnesium, and then I place that, massage it right in all over the whole body from toes to head. And at the very end, I just place my hands across my face and inhale the aroma. It anchors me to the moment. It gives thanks to my body, because most of the time us women do nothing but berate our bodies and look at it as it's not perfect, whereas you only have to talk to somebody who's lost the use of their legs, or maybe they've lost a breast through an illness, or they've lost a lot of weight and they've got a lot of skin sagging. There's so many things that we can complain about, and I just take that opportunity every single morning to give thanks for what my body does. So I've never missed a day. That ritual has never ever stopped. And and Jacob, my son, always goes, are you sure you're telling the truth? Are you sure there's not one day that you've missed? And look, I might have missed showers, but I've never missed my daily body boost ritual. I do shower rituals where I'll say 3 things I'm grateful for when I'm in the shower, or when the kids were little and they were showering with me, I'd say, tell me 3 big things that you did really well today, or tell me 3 things that were challenging, or 1 challenge and then 1 big thing that I called it the champion challenge question rather than how was your day. I guess it's a ritual where I'll say, hey, give me your champion and challenge moments. And that's a really nice thing to do to get them out of talking where they just don't go, it was all right, or good. Champion and challenge is something that we then get to discuss as a family if they need help. We have rituals where we say grace at the dinner table if we're all sitting down to eat. Sometimes we have a ritual just eating dinner on our laps, watching a trashy television show. That's fun. Little things like my spritzer. I always have my little spritzer handy, and one of the rituals we do here in the office, I have a app that goes off on the phone every hour. And you got to do the 4 S's, which is stand, stretch, spritz, and smile. So it's just simply, you know, doing a spritz. And I've taught the kids that. They used to carry those in their bags until they got too cool. But yeah, little things like that. Beautiful rituals around food, daily exercise, movement, gratitude. And on the days that life sucks, when we're all struggling or we're arguing, or, you know, if everything's turned to custard because, you know, life's not always perfect. Probably those are the days where I get the diffuser out, I spritz, and I definitely take myself into the bathroom and do my body boost. In fact, those rituals to me are more important on the challenging days than all the days that are great.
Yeah. How often do you set your timer to stand up?
Every hour. On the hour, a gong goes off. You can download an app called Mindfulness or Tibetan Bowls, or there's certain gongs that you can download as an app, and then every hour the gong goes off, and you can set it from 6 in the morning or 7 in the morning through till 9 at night. But yeah, that's my little way, because sometimes I'm sure many mums are the same. We get so engrossed in our work, we get so engrossed in being a mum, that just to me is a little, what I call a micro moment of self-care, where I get to just have a moment where I just stand, stretch, spritz and smile and take a little moment.
I love that. I love that. I can see myself adding that one in. I know, because I do a lot of work at my computer, I can just lose hours, and I realize that I haven't moved. And, you know, they say that sitting is the new smoking. It's just so detrimental to our health. So yeah, I might steal that one.
Do.
So while we're talking about essential oils, you mentioned a couple that you use in your morning routine. I think it would be lovely if we could look at some of these essential oils that that would come to your mind with our teenage girls, in helping them with all sorts of things, whether it's helping them get to sleep at night. You know, I know that our brains, you know, particularly with my girls currently in year 9 and year 11, they often are doing their homework right up until the last minute, and then they go off to sleep. And I'm sure that their brains just keep ticking over, and it's tricky. I mean, I can give them all the information. We can give them all the information about turning off their laptops earlier and blue light and so on and so on. But inevitably these things slip in sometimes. So helping them with sleep, skincare, I know is a big one, looking at that. So maybe if we just start with one, and then as I think of them, I'll ask you others. Does that work?
Sure. Although I've always, with Taylor, she's 19, she lives down in Brisbane, so she lives independently, and I could tell you the oils that she's got in her little toolkit, if you like.
Yeah.
Lavender is the number one. It is the dream mum in a bottle. It is your mother hug in a bottle. And from the moment when they were little, they would put a drop of lavender on Teddy or Ducky, and whenever they went away, they would, hold their little cuddly or Ducky or Teddy as an anchor. And just before they'd go for two nights before they'd go away, we'd put a drop on Teddy or Ducky, and we would say, every time you smell this is, think of mummy, and, we're always connected by heart. And so they've always sort of probably felt that lavender was that. And as now that she's a teenager, it's funny, she still uses it like as if it's a mother hug. It's also a great oil to put a drop on a pimple or any skin conditions. You can do that one neat on a cotton bud, and then place it onto the area that's affected, or one drop into your skincare moisturizer. That's a really nice thing to do. A drop on your pillow at night to help you sleep is one of the best things with lavender. And yes, it's probably the most common oil, but getting a really good high grade organic essential oil is where you'll have all the therapeutic qualities.
Yeah.
Bergamot is another one. It's a citrus oil. It is known to help with anxiety and depression. So it's a very uplifting oil. It's got a beautiful aroma to it that's quite clarifying for the mind. So if they're studying, that's a really nice one to put into the diffuser. Lavender and bergamot together would be really good if you were struggling with a bit of anxiety and nervousness and worrying. I mean, our teenage girls or teenagers, you know, not only are they dealing with all the school and all the pressures of perhaps trying to get through schoolwork, but, you know, social integration, relationships, partnerships, sex, alcohol, you know, driving, everything is there. So as much as I give the oils to Taylor, they're there when they were learning to drive for me. I would spritz for me. Geranium is a beautiful oil for our teenage girls. It's a very balancing oil, a great oil, again, to use in a diffuser or a spritzer. Lovely one with lavender in the evening in a bath to help them unwind. Those three, lavender, geranium, and bergamot, would be great together in a spritzer to help them, you know, calm down towards the end of the evening. Frankincense it's a little bit more expensive, and sandalwood. Those are two base note oils that Taylor loves. Probably she loves frankincense really a lot at the moment, and frankincense is known as the oil for fears, bad dreams, cluttered thoughts, negativity. It's also a beautiful oil in skincare. It's a fantastic oil to help create a stronger, I call it a shield of honor. You know, like so often as young women, we let people in. We want to be liked. We want to be a part of a community. And then we let people in, and you watch your daughters and they're so kind and they're generous, and then someone really hurts them. So I remind Taylor particularly that frankincense is her shield of honor. It's a protection for her energetically, and for the auras if you're into aura, and for the chakras if you're into chakras. So it's a beautiful oil. You could even put one drop between the fingers, massage it onto the temple, take 3 deep breaths, and remind them to say, I am strong, I am capable, and I am certainly I have a protecting shield around me. So I always get Taylor to say things like that. Anchoring it in with a positive thought. Smell is very closely linked to our emotions. When we inhale an aroma, they travel up the olfactory system, hit the limbic part of the brain, and then it's through the hypothalamus that we have a reaction within 3 to 4 seconds, which is why I love essential oils. It is the easiest way to connect into nature. It's like taking a walk outside in bare feet. It's very good for grounding. They're very beautiful to put in a diffuser or a vaporizer. They just make you feel good. And considering you get about 200 drops in each bottle, you know, you get 3 or 4 or 5 oils, you can have a beautiful little gift pack for your young, beautiful women to use with a diffuser and a spritzer. Yeah. And the last oil I've got written down here is clary sage. You know, menstruation is a big thing with moods. Also, a lot of young women have painful periods, which could have something to do with their gut microbiome. It could also have something to do with processed foods and too much sugar in the diet. There could be a number of things that cause really strong bad cramping. So I always say in a girl's toolkit is to have a bottle of clary sage, and that one is one of the few oils that I would put 1 or 2 drops neat in the hand, rub it over the abdominal area, and then put with a bit of magnesium oil. And if she's got time, you know, a hot water bottle there is a beautiful thing to do. Now, you could use a drop of each of those oils I've just said and make up a blend into a carrier oil. And every month, 2 or 3 days leading into your period, you could use lavender, clary sage, geranium, and frankincense, and you could actually make that into a blend. And what I tried to do with Taylor is give her the tools and skills to self-manage. As a mum, we want to do everything for our children, and it's natural. But in fact, the greatest gift we could give our children is the power of individuality, the power of independence, and the power of making sure that they can make the decisions rightly or wrongly. There is I don't believe there's any wrong decision. Of course, you could question that, but then why did they make that decision? There's learnings. I've got probably a little bit more of an esoteric, maybe holistic way of looking at life that, you know, as a mum, it's so easy to fall into the trap of worrying about them all the time, worrying about their hearts being broken, worrying about driving, drugs, alcohol, sex, the whole thing. But I have a belief that it's already mapped out, that we are their greatest guides. We don't own them. They're not our children. We just happen to have been chosen. Therefore, we are the vehicle to be their greatest coaches and guides, and more importantly, their greatest example. So there's no point me telling Taylor to live a healthy life if I wasn't eating well. And one comment she made, I remember she was still at high school, and she said, gosh, Mum, I just went and stayed at a girlfriend's. She said, oh, man, the mum she went back for 2 helpings of ice cream, and it just completely astounded her. It cracked me up. But she was amazed that a mother would do that. And she said, I mean, as teenagers, we can do that because we know that, you know, in time we won't be doing that. And it was just funny, her little analogy around that cracked me up. She also, you know, I find that she's got in her little toolkit not only those oils, but she's got a bottle of magnesium, she's got arnica, she's got rescue remedy. So when she's at dance classes or she's away, people will say something like, oh, I've got a headache. She'll go, oh, I've got something for that. And she'll put a drop of lavender on their temples, give them a glass of water. So it's amazing. It's all the things I've taught her by being the example. I watch her in her communities, either at school or in her dancing college, and she's almost become her own prescriber of self-care, which is lovely. And I'm sure that, and she said it, you know, she's learnt it from me and watched other women, and I just encourage her to constantly be her own strong self and know that her body is a remarkable, unbelievable vehicle, and that if there's messages like cramping or she's got headaches, it's the body whispering to her that there's something wrong. She hasn't had enough water today, she's maybe had too much sugar, she's maybe had something at a restaurant that had MSG in it that hasn't worked for her, or maybe she doesn't do so well on gluten. So to me, I never say that the body's wrong or it's sick. I always think it's having a health expression, and therefore it's expressing to you that it needs support. And that's where I find oils, herbal medicines, even vitamins sometimes can be a great thing temporarily if they're going through a bit of stress. So yeah, does that help?
Oh my goodness, I'm just completely lost in everything you're saying, Kim. I just love it. I just love it. I think that, you know, one of my girls, Hermione, she often gets called the mother hen. But, you know, in my love language is all about food. So I love, you know, creating things around food, but with an emphasis on health and helping them with anxieties and all these different things in their skin and whatever it might be through food, because that's, you know, that's my passion. And Hermione often comes home and tells me that she gets called mother hen because she's saying, oh, you know, maybe if you didn't eat that and you had this instead. And
the terrible thing is our kids have gone the other way, where, you know, they're telling people off almost, and I had to remind them that they're not there to save other people either, or to judge other people. Everybody's on their own journey. And yeah, I love that. And definitely food is a big thing for us mamas. I remember hearing Dr. Natasha Campbell-McBride actually a couple of years ago. She said that one of the biggest reasons why we're having so much depression, anxiety, autoimmune disease, and issues around pregnancy, infertility, and teenage suicide is she believes a lot of it is to do with the fact that we have been seduced out of the kitchen. Now, I don't mean this in a derogatory way that women should get back in the kitchen, but they were her words. Women, get back in the kitchen. Make chicken soup when your kids are sick. Put a beautiful meal with, you know, a little bit of meat or protein source and 3 veggies was never probably a bad thing. Take the time to sit at the table with your children. She truly believes the healing of the nation will come from mothers being available to our children at meal times and actually making home cooked meals from one ingredients, you know, not buying sauces and packages. And I know in a busy world that might sound fanciful and maybe even ludicrous to a lot of beautiful mums watching this. That's why I invested in a Thermomix. I'm not selling them, but I'm just saying to you, it was a really wonderful tool for me as a mum to whip up a tomato sauce to go on to a zucchini spiralized pasta dish, or if I was making a lasagna or something, I could make this tomato. It just made my life easy when I was so busy. But you don't have to have that. A food processor is beautiful, but just fall back in love with being in the kitchen, even if it's just simple meals. It truly is. And after hearing Natasha Campbell-McBride, look up her work. She's amazing, and she really believes that, the health of the nation should be back on our hands as mums, not microwaving and not night cooking.
Yeah, I loved that, being seduced back into the kitchen. That's something that I've used a few times. I think it's just, I love the connotation of it. It's gorgeous. And, you know, I mean, as a mum with 4 children, I know that time is really precious, and I do make everything from scratch, but most dinners don't take me more than half an hour. I do meat and veg and meat and salad, and, you know, like, it's just all veg and salad based, and then we have some protein with it. And I don't, you know, very rarely follow recipes. It's all just very straightforward.
And it doesn't have to be complicated, does it?
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. But, you know, there are some wonderful wonderful nutritionists out there, or not even, the passionate foodies that have got so many gorgeous, easy recipes. Jo Whitten is going to be on this summit, and she's someone to check out.
Oh, she's adorable.
She's the queen. She is the queen of beautiful, simple food. So, yeah, but we'll get off track. So we talked about that for girls, and this is about empowering our girls. But is there a couple of oils that you would talk about for mums? I know that in my community, I'm talking to and hearing from mums that are just feeling completely overwhelmed with girls that are, not even wanting to leave their home to go to school, with anxiety and all sorts of things. And I just think this, I think about some of the flower essences that are for that sort of overwhelming sense of what do I do next? Are there essential oils that could be added into morning routines that come to mind?
For all the years I've been a mum and an aromatherapist, whatever I have done with my children has been for me, actually, first and foremost. Yes. So you could use all of those oils as a mum in exactly the same way for you. I mean, I did, and I'm not trying to do a plug here, but I did create 12 different blends to make it easy. So things like Focus and Clarity, which has got myrtle and spearmint in it, or Balance and Harmony, which has got rose, geranium and clary sage, a number of different oils, Courage and Confidence, Instant Calm, Energy and Vitality. And I created those to make it easy for us busy mums, so that we weren't having to make recipes all the time, but I'd gone to the trouble of making sure that they were mixed beautifully and that they had the outcome. I mean, when the kids were little, I don't know how people called it happy hour back in those days. They were obviously the ones at the pub, but those of us at home were in hideous hour. And so I would get the kids, and I'd do this thing where I'd go, okay, shh, close our eyes. Let's everybody close our eyes. Tonight it's candle. I still do this to them, and they're teenagers, and they go, Mom. But I go, it's candle bath night. That means no talking. So it was all rules for me. So no talking. You get to choose these oils. So I'd put Instant Calm and De-Stress and Revive out. So it was something that I needed. So they got to choose which one. Then we put candles on. We put a bit of music on, and we ran the bath, and they had to sit in candlelight without talking. And I just sat there looking at them in the bath, and I go, and it was actually all about me. They thought it was all about them, but it was in fact all about me, because I know if I took better care of me, and you can't escape them. Sometimes they go to the toilet with you when they're little, so there's no time out. So how do I create little micro moments of self-care when I'm in the maelstrom of nappies or toddlers or young kids that are at you the whole time? And just because they're teenagers doesn't mean to say that they come into the loo with you, but there's a different energy. I don't think any stage is easier or worse. I think each of them has beautiful, wonderful qualities and moments, and there's nothing better than your little toddler snuggling you. Your teenager can't do that or won't do that necessarily, as in leap into your arms, but you can sit at the end of the bed and massage their feet, and you'll be amazed at what they talk about when you're massaging their feet. So to me, each stage has its championing and challenging moments, and it's a case of how do you look after you through those times. And here's my one piece of advice: do not let them know that they've got you down. Do not show weakness to a teenager, as in falling apart or you've hurt me. Use your husband, your partners, your girlfriends, your therapists for that. But in front of your children, especially teenagers, when they're going to push and push and push, it's really important that you stay strong. So I might stand there and say to Jacob, he said some nasty things, and I know they don't mean it. You've got to remember that the frontal lobe hasn't fully developed till our kids are around 24, 25. So they're going to blurt things without filters. And so a lot of it's not personal. Sometimes they don't even remember they've said it. But we stand there going, these are these babies that I've hugged, loved, fed, nourished, looked after all their lives, and now they're treating me like this. So I would say to you, the mums of teenagers, girls and boys, it's even more important that you have a network around you to support you as a mum, but also as a woman, so that you do not lose your identity. And I've found that a lot of women that are scared of their children doing something wrong or doing something, you just got to call them on it. You got to constantly call them. You might not get it right. I've always said to my kids, Jacob and Taylor, I've sat them both down. I've never been the mum of an 18 and a 19-year-old. I've never been nearly 50 and been a mum of an 18 and a 19-year-old. So I'm just going to ask for your forgiveness, because I haven't had anyone to practice on, and sometimes I'll get it really wrong, and for that I'm sorry. However, I also know that you guys have never been a 17 and an 18-year-old with hormones running through you, and a mum that's menopausal, and a dad that's away a lot, and the struggles and challenges of school, and it's so different to my days. So sometimes you're going to get it wrong, and all I ask is that if we're going to get it wrong, let's give each other the space to walk away and process it, but always honour the fact that our family ritual or rule is that you're not allowed to go to bed on an argument. Even if you don't agree with each other, we've got to come in and say, look, I can't talk about this right now. I'm too gone. Or let's agree to disagree. You're still grounded, whatever it is. I just always say to women, do not lose yourself in the teenage years.
Yeah. So why do you say not to show them that they've got to you? What is your reasoning behind that?
Look, they're challenging. Look, it's not to say not be vulnerable or not cry or not say I'm having a really bad day, or show that I've had some bad news. I'm not saying that. I'm talking about when you're calling them on a discipline. It's around the discipline thing. So if you're saying to them, no, you can't drive after 11 o'clock at night, and they're pushing and pushing and pushing, and they want to go to this party and they want to be, or whatever it is, if you believe that they shouldn't be out there at 11 o'clock, whatever reason your rule is, you stay strong and do not show weakness around that. It's more around the boundaries and disciplines that I'm saying, do not show your weakness. And even if they walk away and call you all the names under the sun because you've grounded them or you've not allowed them to go to some party, what I have found is that ultimately it's probably been a great thing. And in fact, one party that I never let Jacob go to, there was no parental guidance, there was no one that was going to be there, and I just said, I don't feel comfortable, hated on me. And then the next day he said, oh, Mum, there was couldn't do, whilst they're still under your care, and whilst they're still you're their greatest guides, you just got to stay strong. And so I'm glad you clarified that, because I have burst into tears in front of them and said, I'm having a really bad day, I'm sorry. And they have rallied. When I lost a girlfriend to cancer, she was just in her 30s, not even 30, and we were with her the day she passed away, and the oils were all there, and I just rang the kids. They had to get the bus home, and honestly, I came home, Taylor had gone to dancing, but Jacob had run me a bath, the same thing, a candle bath. He'd run me a candle bath, even said to me, you don't have to say anything. And there was a big, next to the bath, there was a big shot of whiskey. I'm not quite sure where he got that one from, but he did all the things that I did to him when he was little, when he had stress. He actually showed up. Now, he doesn't do that all the time. He's not a perfect child. He's still a ratbag. Don't fall in love with him. But he, when it matters, he's there. But I got a text from him last Saturday night just saying, I don't show it all the time, but I cannot say to you how much, he goes, I've got tears in my eyes, how much I know you and Dad have gone out of your way to make me happy or help me be happy, and I can't thank you enough. Now, I don't know why he did that out of the blue, whether he was with his friends, whether he saw some other parents behaving I don't know. But the fact that I got it made all the challenges feel like the fact that I've stuck to my guns at times, or he's had to go through challenges, even when he got kicked out of school. I've always said, I'll be your greatest champion. I'll be your greatest advocate. I will be here. Do not lie to me, because I can't protect you. If you lie, we'll both lose face. So if you've done something, let's own it and let's work out how we're going to get through it. But I will be your greatest advocate and champion, and I will be ferocious in protecting you. So, but we've got to be honest here. So, I've been really big on ferocious protection, but then I expect ferocious honesty as well. And look, they don't always. I'm not saying it's perfect. As I said before, they're never going to always get it right. I'm not always going to get it right. Danny's not always going to get it right. But I think if we all honour that and know that we're all doing the best that we possibly can, then just give yourself that bit of space in the tough times just to process it. That's why I love my oils. I'll go out, stand, stretch, spritz and smile is my routine also when I'm challenged by things that they're saying or doing. So I'll just walk into my bedroom, And I'll just do a deep breath so that I don't say something I may regret, or that, and I've got to try and be the example. So how would I see someone that I respected behave, and I say to them sometimes, if they don't like a teacher or they don't like another parent or some other things, you're going to have bosses like that. You're going to have other people. So how do we deal with those people? Let's work out a way of doing this together so I can support you, but ultimately you're going to have to do it.
Yeah. That honesty and owning your behaviors is something that I talk to my kids about right from very young, and they know that the consequences of being dishonest and me finding out later, then the consequences are much bigger than if they just tell me straight up that they've done something that, they know that I'm going to be cross about, but the consequences are not so big unless if they want to lie about it, then it usually blows up.
It just makes the hole bigger for all of us.
Yeah.
Trust me, I've been there. I'm sure many of you mums watching this have been there. So
absolutely, 100%. I just thought I'd mention too, I don't know if you can see right in the background there, I've got my Immune Boost. That's my autumn oil that I pull out, because autumn in Victoria, we have on Saturday, I think it was 33, and then on Sunday it was 16. We do this hot, cold, and this is when everyone in Victoria gets sick. So that's when my Immune Boost gets pulled out.
Oh, it's a beautiful blend, that actually.
Yeah, that's lovely.
Also a great blend for teenagers because of the oils in there, tea tree, eucalyptus, lavender, pine. They're also really good for negative thoughts and for helping to boost your immunity to other people's bad energies. So you could use it also energetically as well. So yeah, it's a goodie.
That's great. Okay, so doing all these beautiful rituals, and throughout this summit we're talking about changes in nutrition and exercise, which I'd love to talk to you a bit more about as we go on, but so many things require us to make small changes in our lives. And I know in the media it seems to be coming up a lot, and in my social media news feed and so on, is all about how willpower and motivation is really a bit of a crock, and that we need sort of more concrete tools in order to make changes. And I think that this is something particularly pertinent to our teenage girls as well. I know, when they're moving into with the BCE and more pressure and more study, and how do they get themselves over that I don't feel like it. And I'm sure when you were doing your running, you had many moments of not feeling like it. So I'd love to hear some of the strategies that you use.
I think this is all part of my book that I'm writing at the moment, which was inspired by my children. At the end of the day, and this is how I explained it to Jacob as he got kicked out of school, because he just totally hated on himself. And here's the thing, when children behave a certain way, there's always something in the background, like if they're not motivated to do something, or they're up against a brick wall with something else, there's something feeding that. So I try and go after that rather than the problem. But the book is really, I believe everybody goes through tough times and everybody goes through challenges, and all of us feel totally demotivated and uninspired at times. So it's normal. I've not met any human being yet in all my 50 years of anyone that has had this perfect life where they've never cried, never been hurt, never had fallouts. So therefore it's natural and normal for us all to, what I call, fall out of the circle of love. And we do self-sabotage. So we'll procrastinate, or we'll do things we'll get distracted, or we'll do things that stop us from doing what we actually should be doing or need to be doing. So to me, if you want me to give a very quick, brief overview, the first step back into the circle of self-love is to be very aware, self-awareness, awareness that I'm procrastinating, awareness that I'm not doing my homework, awareness that I so don't feel like doing this right now. So that's, you're now back in the circle because you're aware you're doing it. I mean, ignorance is or insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result, as we know. So therefore, that's kind of ignorant to think it. So already self-awareness brings us back into the circle. Then the next step is self-care. So I'm aware that I'm procrastinating. I've got to do something nice for myself. So I put the diffuser on, maybe with focus and clarity, or energy and vitality, or rosemary just on its own, to give myself a boost. And I'm going to sit down for 10 minutes. I'm just going to focus on this for 10 minutes, which, that nice caring thing by using your oils, or making a green smoothie, or could be a bulletproof coffee, or whatever it is that they love or that that they want to do. Something, it's got to be healthy and it's got to serve your body. So then comes self-discipline. So now I'm going to do this for 10 minutes. And I always say 10 minutes because most of us think, well, I could write something in 10 minutes. And what normally happens within 10 minutes is that you go, well, I'm now in the flow, so I can keep going. So it's the same thing as putting on our running shoes. We all get up in the morning, we think, I must exercise. And then I go, oh, it's just a half an hour run. I'd rather sleep in or whatever. But if I say, I'm just going to do a 4-minute workout. So 10 tricep dips, 10 sit-ups, 10 squats, and 10 sit-ups. I'm going to do 4 of each of those. I'm going to do it in 4 minutes, 10 of each of those in 4 minutes. I'm done. Well, most of us, once we've got the shoes on, that's the hardest part. It's that initial phase. So discipline to me is what will create inspiration and motivation, because now all of a sudden you've achieved something. Yeah. And with Jacob, for him, part of his discipline when he was going through his tough time was, I said, every morning you've got to make your bed. I don't want to make my bed. Yet no, you need to make your bed. Why? Because it's been scientifically proven that just by making your bed, there's a thing you've achieved in the morning. Now you're in the path of success. Yes. So, and I've always said that to him. And you know what? Every single day, it might not be perfectly made, but it's made for him. And to me, he got that. And I played him a thing, I've forgotten the name of it now, but it was, I think, a New York basketball or football coach that actually said this in one of his talks on YouTube. So we played it. So it wasn't the mother saying it. I was just giving it from there. From self-discipline, when we start doing something and we say, for the next, I'm going to do 10 minutes every night for the next 28 days. They say it takes 28 days to create a habit. So to me, the discipline of that is part of self-love, or the discipline of finishing your year 12 is part of self-love. The discipline of going to the gym 2-3 times a week is part of self-love. So discipline is actually self-love. And when they can understand that being disciplined is loving yourself, then there's a different connotation. It's not a have to do, it's actually a want to do. And we know the more disciplined we become, the neurochemical loop pathways become stronger and stronger, so that now 10 minutes every night is now a habit. I wouldn't even think of not doing that. Or my body boosting, I started it at 19. I would never think of missing it. It's not a discipline anymore. It is a ritual that I embrace every day. With discipline comes self-control. And as I said to Jacob, the more you practice 28 days, you're not allowed to swear once to a parent or a teacher or an adult. That's your rule. That's your discipline. Can you do it? And he's like, yeah. And I said, if you do it, then you got to apologize. So I'm not going to make you be perfect, but if you do it, just apologize and then get back on. So for 28 days, he stuck to it. And then therefore you find after 28 days, it's just natural to have control around it. So you go to swear instead of swearing. And I gave him an alternative. I said, the next time a teacher or someone says something to you that challenges you, just say 2 words. And this is discipline. That's interesting. They're 2 words that diffuse every argument or everything. It's just, oh, that's interesting, Sue. Now, you can't say it with sarcasm or derogatory. Oh, that's interesting. So it's got to have discipline around it with, oh, that's interesting, Sue. And inside, you might not agree with it, but that's okay. That's just a different viewpoint. So self-control. And when we have self-control, that ultimately leads to self-respect. And when I asked both my kids, what does someone with self-respect look like? I think they nailed it. Taylor said, it's not doing the walk of shame, which I think is cute. It's also someone who does not judge other people. It's someone who takes pride in how they look and how they feel. It's someone who actually loves other people and likes to serve other people. It's people that are really willing to help one another. And I thought, wow, that is real self-respect, because when you've got a lot of self-respect, you are all of those things. And then with self-respect comes self-acceptance. And that to me is the circle of self-love, which all feeds into self-love. And we can fall out of it at any time with a mistake or a mishap or a wrong judgment or doing something crazy. Yes, we all fall out of that. But as I just said at the beginning, it's normal. And we can question ourselves. So that's normal. So the first step back in is awareness. So, oh my gosh, I've just fallen out of the circle again. Jacob sat there with me. I did in a lot more detail with him. But he sat there and he looked at me with tears rolling down his face. And he just said, Mum, why have you never told me this before? And I said, oh, darling, I don't know if it's that I haven't told you. It's just that you might not have been ready, or maybe it's just the right timing. And then he said, you've got to get, excuse my words, you've got to get this shit out there. He said, you've got to tell all these mums and teenagers out there that this is the way back in, because this is the first time I've understood it. Yeah. And that's why I'm writing the book, to help mums and to help women and men, obviously, but to really support that cycle and circle of love is easy when we have some steps to think about. And discipline is what creates, back to your original question, to me, is where the motivation will come from. We all have to do stuff we don't want to do. We have to go to work some days. We have to, I don't know, I've got to cook meals every night. I had to be a mum and I was exhausted to get up and feed them in the middle of the night. Like, there are some things you just have to do. And as a child or a teenager, the more we do for our kids, the more they become a bit entitled into thinking, well, someone else will do it. So for me, it's more like maybe our generation have got a lot to answer to, in the sense that we haven't wanted our generation of children to have to suffer the way we perhaps all did through the 60s and 70s, but are we creating a rod for our own backs? So yeah, I hope that helps with a little bit around the motivation question. I also think the word motivation, someone said to me once, you're a motivational speaker. I said, please don't put me in that category. I don't want to have to motivate. To motivate you is to have to make you want to do something. If I inspire you to want to do it for yourself, and inspire, if we break it down, in spirit, you've now got the spiritual connection to it to want to do it for yourself. So as a mum, I want to inspire my children, not motivate them to do it for them. I want to be the inspiration.
Yeah. Oh, I so wholeheartedly agree with you. And going back to Jacob, not, you probably giving that message over and over, but we hear things when we're ready to hear them. And I think, I talk about being role models to our girls, and, they may not, they may stray outside what, you do at home. So for me, my eldest son was very eager to tell me when he got his first job at McDonald's, being the healthy foodie that I am. He was like, oh, look where I've got a job, Mum. And, they go out, and I know that when they're out, they eat other foods. And, when they leave home, I know when I left home, I went right off track and drank like a fish and ate all the wrong things. But it's that grounding that you grow up with that you eventually come back to. So it is living these messages. It is doing the things that we're talking about. It is, the rituals that they may not take on till later or understand the importance of until later, but then they're in them. And they can back to
you're absolutely right, Edwina. And I'd just like to say to the mums that maybe are just, the women that are going to watch this are on the path of discovery around this. And if you've perhaps not been so good with cooking in the kitchen, or you have felt like you've been a failure at times, or you feel like you're just new to this whole wellness hub, then, there is nothing like the present. And I love these words. I'm useless in the kitchen up until now, or I've not been very good with discipline up until now. So again, those three words give us the grace to let go of the past, but also honor that we're actually, we're learning. And I think the more we learn, the more we realize we don't know. And with that comes self-forgiveness, forgiving for the things that we maybe, and we know, mother guilt is just insane. It's rife. I think we'd all be multimillionaires if we could earn $1 for every time we felt guilty.
I should call it guilthood instead of parenthood.
It's true. And guilt is a great barometer, because we care. But just don't get hooked into the victimization of it. And that's my thing again, back to not letting your kids know that they've got your Achilles heel. Guilt is a fast track way in there. If they know they can make you feel guilty, or they'll work you, no matter how good your kids are, they'll work it. So be mindful and really enjoy other women's company. I love being around other women that I ask for coaching. I don't go around there and go and bitch and moan about your husbands or your kids or this. I don't like to moan about my children. Yeah. I'm so grateful there's so many women that could be sitting in that circle that would have given anything to have a child or one more child or whatever. So be mindful of how you speak, and be mindful of who you share those intimate challenges with. And ultimately, I want to be coached through those times. Two of my close girlfriends, I'll ring and go, Cindy, I'm a level 1 soul. If level 10 is, Buddha, Jesus Christ, God, Allah, I'm a level 1 soul right now, and I've just lost my shizzle, and I need coaching. And so I'm not afraid for someone to go, yeah, you screwed up there. Like, what are you going to do? How are we going to do this? And I think that just lets you off the hook a little, not off the hook from doing it, but lets you off the hook from carrying that now with another thing to feel guilty for, or another thing that I've done wrong. And I'm telling you, if your kids see that you start layering up the guilt, then for them to get what they want, they will use it. So do not show them.
So I think my final question is one that's dear to me, and that, one of the phrases on your website that really grabbed me was igniting your inner spark. And my up until now sort of thing is exercise. I've mentioned it before in previous interviews, but as a teenager, I was put off exercise for life until I was almost 40, and I've always found it really hard to exercise. It's my absolute nemesis, and I've never felt comfortable, and I've never found my thing. And then sort of when I turned 40, and the more I learned, the more I knew, I always relied on nutrition and exercise to maintain my health and my weight. But I know how important exercise is. So I walk and I dance. But I know that for many teenage girls, the story is the same. And what they learn in school often puts them off for life, that sort of competitiveness and so on. So, I know it's all part of igniting that inner spark and feeling really good, and in releasing all these fabulous hormones that come with exercising. So for the other mums out there that perhaps haven't found a way to move their bodies that makes them feel good, and for the teenage girls that faced what I faced, how do we kind of make that transition, and possibly understanding the why it's so important would be first steps?
Look, you could probably take them to a rest home to show them what it looks like when you don't move your body. When you get older, you'd lose, not that they'd probably identify with it, because as a teenager, that's just so far away. But for me, it really hit home. My grandmother always said, do not stop squatting, love. And I'd say, what do you mean? She goes, well, just squat every day, 20 squats a day. She said, that is nothing more demeaning than having to be helped to go to the bathroom because I can't sit down on the toilet. So, I've always thought we've been given this gracious body to move. I'm very lucky. Both my children are high achievers physically. So, and maybe that's because Danny played cricket for New Zealand, I ran for Australia. Maybe movement has been such a part of our world that it just wouldn't be. So I'm probably not the best person to answer it, except I come from a place of inspiration around this incredible vehicle that if you don't use it, you'll lose it. Yeah. And we know that you just said it then, find something that you like to do. Mm-hmm. So now it might be for your girls, if they're not interested in exercising, then what we can say is, well, we're going to have to walk to the beach, or we're going to have to walk around the block, and I'm coming with you, because they know it's important. They've learned enough to know at school. They will know, all teenagers know that movement is important. There could be a bit of defiance in there that they don't want to do, or they don't like the PE girls or the teachers or whatever. But the most important thing of all is to remember that I remember seeing a survey. It was research out of an American university. They got all these housekeepers in a hotel. So half of the hotel housekeepers, house cleaners, the room service people were told nothing. And the other half had been told, now we want you to clean each room, but we want you to do it with volition, with real energy, and as if it's a workout. Now, 4 weeks after they measured everybody's results, so there was nothing different that they did, except they had an intention around the fact that it was exercise while they were doing it. So what they discovered is, and I can't remember the exact figures, but it was like weight loss in most of them. General tone and tonality of the muscle was way improved. Things like days off improved. Things like sickness days were way better in the group that had a focus and intention around they were moving their body to exercise with volition. So I would say to my kids, okay, you don't like exercise, but we know we've got to do it. Let's move that word from exercise, and honey, you're still going to have to clean your room. Or, okay, well, every week you're going to have to clean the cars. Your choice. But either way, we're going to have to do some sort of movement. And even when we walk out to letterbox, if you clear the letterbox, I want you to lunge every on the way out there and lunge backwards on the way. Make it fun. And I love going to things like dance classes. I think is wonderful for people. It could be just swimming. It could be, I know there are so many things that are looked at competitively, which is what puts a lot of young girls off. But their bodies are so stunning. And unfortunately, you just said it before, sitting has become the new smoking. These girls are always looking down. So we're getting a lot of problems with the cervical areas of the neck. So we're going to have to do something. And the only way I found it works really, truly powerfully is when the mum themselves is the example. So yeah, if you're not moving and yet you want your daughter to move, it's a pretty big call. So again, get them involved with you. Honey, do you want to have a great body? And I don't mean Instagrammable body. I mean a body that moves with ease and can get over aches and pains or get over flus quickly. You have to work the body to keep the immune system strong. So therefore it could be walking in bare feet just out on the grass, 20 squats and back in. That's why I created my WODs, my workout of the day. Even if you just followed the hashtag on there, WOD, on my Instagram page, there's like 2-minute workouts to 12-minute workouts. So, it's just do those. Google WOD, W-A-D, workout of the day, and get them on a program. Do it together. Get up and do your 2 minutes every morning. 2 minutes is better than nothing. Yeah. And their bodies bounce so quickly and beautifully. I mean, you look at your teenagers and you're like, did I look like that? Like, did I have that flawless skin and body and everything? And yet we didn't appreciate it maybe when we were there. So to me, really honouring your body is how they're going to see it. And if you haven't been an exerciser, then go into it with them together. Like, what can we do together, girls? We all know how important this is. And I'm not saying we have to go and do anything competitively, but if you in your teenage years aren't enjoying movement, it's not going to get easier. Yeah. So let's find something. And I think that's why I love the oils. We put a drop of the energy and vitality. We put it in our crop tops and we all go and walk. Even if it's 1 kilometre to get the paper and back again, or 1 kilometre to get a coffee and back again, reward them with something. Remember, you've got to do it for 28 days minimum so that we can start creating it as a habit. But it is part of self-love, and movement is definitely that. Have you spoken to a gentleman called Marcus Pierce? He's done the 8 steps of health and wellness. Now, most people think the most important thing is nutrition, but in fact, it's social connectivity. Yep. And number 2 is movement. This is how people get into their older age and live with grace and ease. Is number 2 is movement. Actually, number 4 is nutrition. So number 1, social connectivity and acceptance and belonging. Number 2 is movement. So you've got to find some way, something that will float their boat.
Yeah, I joined they started an adults dance class here in Torquay, and we do a bit of jazz and a bit of burlesque, and it's all these mums, and it's just so much fun, Kim.
I'd love that. I so think I should have been Christina Aguilera. Why was I born with that voice and that body? And that's one of my favourite films with Taylor, The other thing to do is to watch inspirational YouTube videos. Yeah. Like your kids love YouTube, and go into them and say, honeys, can you help me find some inspirational videos on how to get moving, because I've lost my mojo. Can you show me? And if they're like, oh, Mum, go, come on, please do this together. I've got to do it for my homework. I'm doing a course at the moment, and I have to give some links to some good videos, and I have to show that my teenagers have watched it with me to prove to them that it's worth video to watch. Make it up. Do something to help them. Like, I go into Jacob and I go, have you seen that video on someone said you have to make your bed in the morning to feel successful? He goes, what? And I went, I don't know this. Can you help me find? YouTube's not my thing, Jacob. So can you help me find it? That's how we did that. Or Danny, how to get him off gluten. Oh my gosh. Because I know gluten doesn't work for him. And I tried everything. And then Novak Djokovic's book, he talks in there called Serve to Win. So Danny loves sports books, autobiographies. So I bought him that book for Christmas, and he's reading half the thing. He goes, do you know that Novak doesn't even eat gluten and beer and all that? I mean, really? He goes, yeah, no. I think I'm going to go off it. Yeah. Doesn't matter how we get there. Just support them every which way that you can.
I love it. I have loved this interview so much, Kim. Thank you so much. I know that you have a very special free gift for the viewers. Do you want to just take a minute to tell them about that?
Sure. Look, I've got 2 ebooks that I've written for you. If you haven't had enough of me now, our best-selling book, Like Chocolate for Women, which is a beautiful book. It's an ebook as well, and I'd love to share that with you guys because there's all the rituals, the apology rituals, the forgiveness rituals, the meal rituals, all the different things I've been talking about are pretty much in that book. And then the other book, which isn't even on the market yet, is called Chemical Free Beauty. And I think part of teaching our young women the power of lessening our footprint in this world and trying to help them to understand that just because a top pop star is advocating some cream to get rid of pimples doesn't mean to say it's the best cream out there. So Chemical Free Beauty has been written with young people in mind, with ideas around food masks and how to avoid chemicals in our skincare and personal care products. And I hope, God forbid, they say this next generation coming through will be the first generation that actually dies before their parents because of this chemical warfare that's going on in our food, our beauty products, our personal care products. And as you say, you've had Therese Kerr on, you've got Joe Whitten coming on. They will talk to you about the power that additives and chemicals will have on the endocrine system, our hormonal reaction to things. We know in many skincare products there's things called obesogens, which helps people stay fat or put fat on because these chemicals love fat cells, and there are 90% of skincare industry out there, and one of them is parabens. So just becoming very aware, and I hope that book might help get it printed off at Officeworks and maybe share it with your daughters. And maybe, I was just thinking then, rituals, get onto Snapchat with your kids or do something that they're into, so that you can look like a dork and you can be the loser mum that, I've had texts from Taylor and Jacob going, Mum, I don't think you should put that up there. And I didn't even realize it was that bad, but apparently it was really uncool. So, ask them for coaching. But Taylor and I have a thing every day where we streak every day on Snapchat, and, we're up to, I don't know, however many days, but it's just our little good morning and it's a photo of each other or good night. Those kind of things, get into their world and be the advocate, be the role model, not the supermodel. Give them the information, the education. And I really hope that those 2 books might inspire you mummies. You're doing an amazing job. Actually brings me to tears when I think of, if you're watching this summit, what Edwina's created here, if you are one of those mums, you're already extraordinary, because you're wanting to be greater and you're wanting to give more and you're wanting to learn more. So kudos to you, and never give up on yourselves, on your kids, on your partners, on life, because yes, there's troughs, and as beautiful Marlon Brando always said, the meat cleaver will come down at some point. The question is, how do you get up through those meat cleaver moments? And for me, that's where I use nature, food, movement, and certainly essential oils.
That's perfect. Oh, thank you so much for your time, Kim. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Oh, pleasure.
Thank you. Bye for now.
Bye.